He is mainly being picked because of his recent form and his 4 goals in the 2018 World Cup, but did you know he scored in only 2 games in that competition, both being the only games where France scored 4 goals? Hello and welcome back to another video. In this video I will be ranking the 15 most popular players in World Cup Fantasy. I did quite a lot of research through Twitter and watching a few games, so a sub to the channel would be very appreciated. We start off with Messi, and he has to be in all of your teams. He is arguably the best player this season and will probably win the Ballon d'Or for only the 8th time if he does perform well in the World Cup. He is on all set pieces for Argentina and was directly involved in 60% of Argentina's goals this calendar year. He also has very good fixtures in all 3 games, so a strong captaincy candidate throughout the competition. Next up is Courtois, and he goes into optional as spending 6 million on a keeper in any fantasy game isn't a good use of your money. I would rather spend the money elsewhere. However, he has shown a lot of form over the past 3 international competitions, racking up 8 clean sheets in that time, the highest of any keeper in that time. De Paul is one I would say is a must-buy for any 3 or 4 premium teams. He provides great value only at 5 million, as he does get in a few tackles and is pretty involved in the attack for Argentina. He will get you key passes, tackles, and the odd clean sheet points. Alisson is the number 1 keeper for Brazil, but I don't know if he would be playing all the games with Ederson on the bench. There are cheaper nailed options in defense from Brazil, so he isn't the only one you can get. He does have easy fixtures though, so if that's enough to get you to buy a 6 million goalkeeper, then go for it. Cancelo joins De Paul in the great buys. In this game, goal-scoring defenders get a massive advantage over normal defenders, and for that reason, Cancelo is one of the best options despite being priced at 6 million. He is also nailed for the Portugal side. The only thing that should be putting you off Cancelo would be if you own Diogo Costa in goal and don't want to double up on the Portugal defense. Lisandro Martinez is the first one who joins the avoids, and it's because of a few reasons. As I said when talking about Cancelo, goal-scoring defenders are the way to go in this game, and Martinez is exactly not that. 5'9" and only 9 goals in his career puts me off him. Not to mention he isn't even nailed on with Otamendi and Romero all viable for that spot. A Euro 2020 hero picking up 3 goal involvements for Denmark in the competition. Only priced at 4.5 million for a side who are quite underrated entering the competition. He is nailed on and was their top scorer in the Nations League, picking up 5 goals from right back. A must-have for all of your teams. Foden's ownership is much higher than what I was expecting. He is an 8.5 million midfielder who isn't even nailed on with the likes of Sterling, Saka, Rashford, Mount and Grealish, who can all play in similar positions. England are predicted to start with a back 5, so only a few of those I mentioned can start. Even when he does start, I don't expect him picking up a lot of goals or assists, as England are a very defensive side under Southgate. Mbappe is a bit of a hit or a miss. It would be disrespectful not to add him in the great buys, but he wouldn't go any higher in the tier list for me. He has 2 good fixtures in Australia and Tunisia in Matchday 1 and 3 respectively. However, we have seen that with Benzema in the side, he does look less tempting as a fantasy asset. He is mainly being picked because of his recent form and his 4 goals in the 2018 World Cup, but did you know he scored in only 2 games in that competition, both being the only games where France scored 4 goals. He does however get a lot of shots on target per game, which is good for this version of the fantasy. Much like Maele from Denmark, Dumfries did make his mark in the Euros last year. He scored 2 goals where he could have scored a lot more considering he missed 3 big chances. He also plays for a better team defensively in Netherlands, so a great pick to start off your World Cup fantasy. Not a very good asset from Germany, but I do see why many people would go for it. He has had a very successful Champions League campaign up to now, picking up 5 goal involvements up to now. He also starts most of the games for Germany. I just don't prefer their fixtures over other teams in the competition, and Sane being priced at 9 million makes him tougher to own, considering many of us want 3 or more premiums on our teams. Like Rodrigo de Paul from Argentina, who I talked about earlier, Modric is an all-rounder who gets quite a few tackles and also is much involved in the attack. The only reason he isn't in the great buys like De Paul is his price point. However, he does sort of justify it as he is on all penalties, corners and even free kicks for Croatia. Valverde is surprisingly the second most owned midfielder after De Bruyne, and he was in most of my drafts after his recent form in front of goal for Madrid. But after watching bits of the last few games for Uruguay, I did notice he wasn't given as much of an attacking role for Uruguay, and was more of a tempo setter. To confirm my eye test, I went over to the Uruguay fan accounts and other fantasy experts, and most of them said that Valverde plays as a defensive midfielder for Uruguay. Because of that, he enters the avoid, as you should never be paying 8.5 million for a defensive midfielder when you could get better options for cheaper who are more attacking. I did make my point with De Bruyne in my previous video that you can watch after this, but basically, he is a key passes magnet, and that increases even more with him given the responsibility of taking all corners and free kicks. He can really rack up those key passes, and as a result, get more points. As for goal involvement, he has been directly involved in more than 40% of Belgium's goals since the Euros in June of 2021. Neymar is on 6 goals in the World Cup up to now, the same as his club teammate Messi and Kane from England. This does show his vibrance for the Brazilian side. In my opinion, he isn't a must-buy if you're going for a true premium draft, but any more than that and he has to be a serious contender in your team, given that he's also on penalties, free kicks and corners. Trippier, the last one in the video I'm going to talk about, and he's another FPL legend like Cancelo this season. But I do like him more, and he is a must-buy in my opinion. He is on corners and free kicks, being 1 million cheaper and playing for a better defensive side in England. He looks too good to ignore. He also has the second most key passes in the Premier League after De Bruyne, but because he is a defender, unfortunately they don't count as extra points in this game. This is the tier list for the World Cup players. Thanks for watching. See you soon for the next one.